Very good morning to you. Welcome along to a very special Off the Ball today. It's 20 years since the Omagh bomb, and Shane Stapleton and Joseph Conroy have been up in Omagh talking about the impact that the bomb had on the town, on the GAA community there in particular. And we'll bring you that around about 8:20 this morning. We're also going to speak with Richie Bennis, who of course was involved in 1973 when Limerick won the All-Ireland. He was also involved as the manager the last time they were in an All-Ireland final when they just came up against that amazing Kilkenny team. And who knows a thing or two about the team this weekend ahead of the game against Galway. We played some stuff from Cyril Farrell last night on the show. We played some Davy Fitzgerald as well, who obviously has decided to stick with the Wexford footballers. And we get some thoughts from the Mayo camp after the news came through yesterday that it looks like Stephen Rochford is going to be staying on for another year. Owen, how are you?
Very well.
Pardon me?
Bad cough this morning?
I don't know where.
A winter cold?
I don't know where.
You know that the mornings are drawing in and Gerard's got a cold. You know it's winter. It's just around the corner.
So there's a couple of things we need to talk about. One, you got a haircut.
Yes, thank you very much.
Your TV hair, it's very good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Hair and makeup department, get it for free these days.
Do you? Yeah.
No, we don't. We definitely don't.
And so, is it like a big thing? Is it like I'm putting mine off now until it has to grow out a little bit, and then
Yeah, save your money. Basically, leave it 6 weeks instead of 4 or 7 instead of 6, whatever it may be. And basically, what's the point? You may as well.
Do you go to the same person all the time? Do you like have a?
Yeah.
You have a patter.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
What's his name?
Mark. I want to say, yeah. So yeah, like I go in kind of. We all go through spells, I think, of barbers, don't we? It's like this person for a while, that person for a while. Move house, that person's closer now, or whatever. Then you go to a different person. It's the ups and downs of life, Joe. Really, you can always judge where you are in life by what barber you're using.
Yeah, fair enough. So let's have a production meeting on air, right?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we've got a moral dilemma, everybody. We've received plenty of tweets over the last 24 hours.
At least two.
At least, well, that is a lot. And after Joe and I mentioned a sickening display of violence on a pitch. Thuggery in Meath last week. Now, we do believe that we were going to play this video at the top of the show until, our producers saw that this video was lined up. So we're giving the go-ahead for everybody in the box there to play this video right now, as long as the producer allows it. He's been backed into a corner now. This was an incident in the Meath Intermediate Championship last week.
That's him coming, push, off he goes. I would like to report that the producer has stormed out of the box and is no longer producing the show.
Oh, no way. Oh shit. Okay. He's not going to be happy with that. But we have to bring the news to the people. Here's a couple of images as well. It was reported. This is actually the instant moment after the incident, and then it was reported in the newspaper as well. You can read that better than I can.
The final also featured one of the shortest substitutions. Meath Hill's Thomas Rooney replaced fullback Martin Tully in the 50th minute and was the recipient of a black card some 90 seconds later. He was replaced by Mark Tully. Martin Tully also got back into the fray at the end as a black card replacement for McMahon. So as somebody said in our WhatsApp group, a good day for the Tullys, but not a great day for Tommy.
Not a great day for Tommy. That is our producer, of course, Tommy Rooney. There was so many of you that got in touch to tell us to play the video that we just had to play the video. So we do apologise to everybody affected.
And we will happily play any fan footage from junior football matches right around the country if you give us a good backstory. Intermediate, even the intermediate ones and also the junior ones. Pardon me. So he's back in the box, as you can tell from the way that my ear buzzed there with the correction from junior to intermediate.
Yeah, we do have Richie Bennis on the show a little bit later on. So whenever we have these legends of the game on, I tend to kind of go back and look at the archive and see what was being written in the newspapers at the time. And you always get sucked into a wormhole. I'm glad I only discovered it this morning, actually, just going back to the newspapers in 1973, because it's very entertaining stuff. We may as well put some of this stuff up on the screen now. So this was the Sunday Independent we're going to start with, the day of the All-Ireland final in 1973, which is, of course, the last time Kilkenny, or the last time Limerick won an All-Ireland. They beat Kilkenny in that All-Ireland. So, as you can see there, they were being written off. Limerick must be worried, says Cork star Tony Maher, and we can take a closer look at that. Tony Maher, Cork's powerful corner back, who started against Kilkenny in the finals of 69 and 72. says, like most people outside Kilkenny, I'd like to see Limerick win after all those years waiting. But I must say, I expect Kilkenny to win by 4 or 5 points. Kilkenny have the right men in the right places, the places where games are won and lost. Their half-back line will, in my opinion, dominate the proceedings. I expect Pat Henderson to lord it in the middle, and on his wings he has 2 fine hurlers in Pat Lawler and Brian Cody. Up front, they again have their power in the middle with Pat Delaney to lead the way, especially now that he is captain. And of course, Pat Delaney got marked out of the game by Eamon Cregan, written off by the media, so he was Cregan, and Limerick winning comprehensively on the day. We'll be speaking to Bennis, as I said, later on.
Richie scored 10 points in the final.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Once I started looking at this sort of stuff, my eye gravitated towards different parts of the paper, and you might have picked up on it there when we showed you the overview of the page there. Are you bald or wearing a hairpiece? Asks this ad. Did you pay £100 or £200 but never again? Hand knotted toupees with skin parting for only £26.50. Hair implanted toupees for only £55.75. All of the immediate delivery and no callers or salesmen. Just one way, we have slashed costs. It is not better than the one you are wearing. Return it if it isn't. The classic toupee, 60 Dublin Road, Belfast. The other ad that caught my eye was this one on the same page as well. The Blackthorn Unbeatable, a classic boot. It wouldn't go astray on a pitch today. Boots that set the pace in sport today. Hard-hitting design, real strength and comfort, built-in nylon soles and interchangeable screw-in studs. That's Blackthorn. Blackthorn football boots getting the advertising.
Built-in nylon soles. I mean,
it's
nice.
Fantastic. Look at this ad then. This was on like page 3 of the Sunday Independent that morning. Muscles make a man. Build steel-like arms. Build deeper chest. Build broader shoulders. Build powerful legs. If you thought it would take years to develop a He-Man body like this, here's news that will astound you. The revolutionary 2 bodybuilder is designed to give you the kind of physique you've always wanted in a matter of weeks. All you got to do is sign up and send this to Bulwarker Service, Depot 050 149 Lower Drumcondra Road. I'm sure that company is still in operation. I also had to have a look at the Agony Aunt column from this Sunday Independent. This is the last thing from the Sunday Independent from 1973. So, question: for the past 6 years, I've been dating a man who is 10 years my senior. I love him and he has told me that he loves me. He even persuaded me to allow intimacies I would never have allowed to anybody else. Woo. He quieted my misgivings by saying we were as good as engaged. The problem is I can't get him to set a date for the wedding. 3 years ago, when the talk of marriage first came up, his excuse was that I was too young and I mightn't know my own mind. I was then 20, he was 30. This is patronising as hell. I fully expected the ring for my 21st birthday, but again I was disappointed. The excuse this time being that he was thinking of changing jobs. So it goes on a little bit, and then he says, during the past 2 years we've quarrelled and parted on a number of occasions, but each time we've come back together. I know he dated other girls when we were apart, but he said it was just to have something to do. My mother has never liked him from the start. And then the answer, the Agony Aunt, being supportive as always. If your boyfriend doesn't realise after 6 years that you love him, there is very little hope that he ever will. From your letter, it is obvious that marriage is exceedingly remote in his plans. His traits are those of a lover, not a man who seriously wants to settle down to family life.
There's a great line as well. Mothers can be quite perceptive about men.
Oh yes, mothers can be quite perceptive about men. You could do worse than take her advice and cut adrift from your boyfriend. If he really loves you, the risk of losing you may jolt him into marriage. The Sunday Independent giving brilliant advice as always in the Agony Aunt column. The day after then, of course, just a couple of looks at the sports pages there. This is the front page of the Irish Independent, which was also the day after the RUC men's cars were raked by gunfire in Mayo, ambush. The story there, that was what was leading the way. The Irish cholera story was also leading the way in the Irish News agenda. But you can also make out there a moment worth waiting for, and then inside in the actual sports section, Limerick Supreme, the goal that turned the tide. Then we have a look at the Cork Examiner then from the next day. Limerick's Day of Joy. We won, says the right-hand side there. Great photographs. And then finally, the Irish Press sports section. Pictorial focus on the final and thrilling finish. Superb O'Brien clinches victory for Kilkenny, which obviously wasn't in that one. It must have been in the minors, beating Galway, I think, on that occasion. It's interesting. I couldn't actually find a match report in the Irish Press from the game. Maybe it wasn't something that they indulged in at the time. John Giles had a good column as well in the Sunday Independent, and Billy Bremner had scored a goal the previous day as well. So there was kind of a bit of synchronicity about it all.
All right, so let's tell you what's coming up. We're going to bring you our Omagh bombing special around about 8:25 this morning. Máire Treasa and Calix was speaking with Keith Higgins at the Hurling for Cancer game last night in Newbridge. He got his thoughts on the news that Rochford is staying on in Mayo, and we'll bring you Richie Bennis sometime around 9 o'clock this morning. Now though, let's bring you to the sports pages.
OTBAM. Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
Okay, I'm going to start with the Times Ireland edition. A picture of one of the dejected Celtic players, James Forrest there. Celtic exit Champions League. What the hell's going on at Celtic? Knocked out of the Champions League, beaten by Hearts at the weekend. Fitzgerald to extend reign with Wexford. And this is the news that Davy Fitzgerald will remain in charge for another season at Wexford. And Paddy Jackson on the back of the Times sports section on the front of the Examiner and all over the place really, because John Fallon has been in Perpignan speaking with Paddy Jackson, where he's saying that people don't understand what he's been through. The Mail, hell on back, Jackson eager to push on after a difficult period. Brendan's boys blow it, 2-1 defeat in Greece last night, knocked Celtic out in Athens, and Limerick have nothing to lose, warns Donlan. So former Galway star Cyril Donlan believes fearlessness may be the trump card that Limerick have. There's not a whole heap of analysis when it comes to that type of stuff. It's passion, pride, momentum, all that stuff, as opposed to when you actually speak with people like Matthew Hanlon. He's like, well, this is how the game goes, this is how the response needs to be from both teams. That's the type of analysis that we need a little bit more of, I think.
It's true, yeah. Like maybe if it was Tipperary against Kilkenny, that sort of analysis would have seeped in, but I think with a gap that's going back 45 years without an All-Ireland title, the kind of poetic nature of it all is surely going to come into it, and therefore kind of talk of hunger as kind of as nonsensical as it may be in the reality of how the game may go on Sunday. It's kind of a factor.
It's a factor in the coverage as opposed to I'm just saying,
and that's why we're seeing it. There
should be more of the other stuff though, because like how the teams match up depends or dictates much more rather than like one team having hunger. Because if hunger was the only thing, then Limerick being hungry because they haven't won since 1973, they would have won loads of stuff.
Well, which is higher up the hunger power rankings is Galway's hunger to back up last year's success. Does that give you more of a thirst, so to speak?
These two hungers eat each other.
Which is more important, thirst or hunger, I wonder, when it comes to big All-Ireland finals?
Well, I mean, thirsty means something different these days, right?
I wouldn't know.
Former boss O'Connor leads race for Kerry job. This is the Irish Times, the Irish Independent Sports section. This is Jack O'Connor. How do you feel about Jack O'Connor being the new Kerry boss, Owen? I
saw it this morning and I was like, okay, this is
entirely predictable that he is going to be the favourite at this point, or that he's like, apparently he's not the favourite of the bookies. Dermot Murphy's still the favourite, is he?
Yeah, that's what it says in Martin Bretney's piece. I haven't checked the odds this morning, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, actually this makes perfect sense. I'm not saying it's the right decision, I'm just saying it makes sense, because Tim Murphy, the county board chairman, had said last week that this is the biggest decision of his tenure. Getting this wrong would mean the end of him.
So you go conservative with the guy who's been there twice and won. I mean, maybe that's not conservative at all, but like, so the left field choice is Dermot Murphy, is it?
Relatively left. I'd say it's more left field to suggest Máire Fitzgerald. It does seem from reading that piece, I would have been suggesting Peter Keenan was the man for the job, but it does seem, if Bretney's information is good there, that he's going to go into the under-20s ranks, give him 2 years, and then he'll take over as senior boss. So Jack O'Connor, I kind of get the sense that he's got a high possibility of getting this job, but he will be there as a stopgap 2-year solution, because he has worked, of course, with a lot of those players, Sean O'Shea and not David Clifford, but the first two minor All-Ireland winning teams. He worked with, was David Clifford part of that under-21 team last year? No, he wasn't, because he was a minor, but basically there's a hell of a lot of young players there that Jack O'Connor has worked with.
Rogers' frustration as boys come Acropolis is the headline on the back of the Indo this morning. Somebody feeling very proud of their work there. And then the Examiner front cover is Micheál's mantra. We learned a lot this year in terms of going in as winners and the expectation on us. Micheál Donoghue talking about defending as opposed to annexing the first time round. Crowd control, Kieran Shannon and John Kiley's masterstroke in managing the hype on Shannon's side. Lots of tops off. Is that Thurles? I can't actually tell from the picture.
Thurles or Croke Park.
And yeah, the Paddy Jackson story is there again, but they also have the interesting story of David Reedy, who was dropped from the Limerick panel, hurled with Kildare for a year. Obviously, he lives in Naas, and Joe Quaid is the Kildare manager, and then came back onto the panel this year and scored the winner in the semi-final. So that's a pretty remarkable story from him. And I think that is you done. Just a quick one from the Irish News. The Irish News story this morning, obviously Celtic on the back of that. Rogers blames lack of signings for exit. Ooh, that's a quick way to get the exit sign on the door for Brendan Rodgers as well. And down below is Captain McParland heads for job in Qatar. So that's the story there.
Back page of the Herald this morning is Dubs have free reign, Mugsy. Tyrone's lack of regular place kicker is a worry for Mulligan. So he's talking about, clearly, as you can see, the lack of a quality free taker in the ilk of Dean Rock or so. It's a good point, actually. It's something that actually hasn't been spoken too much about Tyrone, because everybody's like, well, they don't have a marquee forward. Well, the subsequent problem of that is you don't actually have someone to kick the ball over the bar when you get a free inside 45 metres. I don't know. Has
the conversion rate not been just about okay? Like,
it seems that it does seem.
Dean Rock missed a couple of frees in the last game, right? Which seems unusual, but actually, free takers miss a couple of frees every game, really, unless you are at the absolute peak. And maybe in an All-Ireland final, if you're going to win it as an underdog, you need somebody to do that. But if they're getting 6 out of 8 frees, and let's face it, they're not going to get 8 frees against Dublin anyway. So
yeah, like maybe it's more of a worry that they don't have someone to ping the ball over the bar like Rory Beggan. Like, does Niall Morgan come up and take a few of them again? I know he missed one in Ballybuffet. Did he score another one as well?
He scored the last one.
Yeah. So he scored the one that mattered. So they do have that, but maybe he's not as kind of solidified as Rory Beggan was to the idea that Dublin can foul 50 metres out and be pretty confident that it's not going to be too detrimental to them. Tyrone may have like a 40% conversion rate from that area of the pitch. Back page of the Sun is dead loss. Bren Blast defence and reveals Boyata was fit. Brendan Rodgers is not a happy camper this morning after that defeat last night. Dedrick Boyata said he wasn't fit to play. He stayed back in Glasgow. But Brendan Rodgers said he was fit and he just wasn't interested in playing. So Dedrick Boyata is probably on the way out of Celtic by the looks of things. Back page of the Irish Daily Star is Boys Athens agony, Champions League exit for Rodgers and Celtic. We've also got players get Davy to say. Davy Fitzgerald is hanging on with Wexford for another year. They're going to have another crack at it. And like, there is this sort of very thin line between everybody at the top tier of hurling at the moment. It's fantastic from a neutral perspective, but there is also kind of the idea that, God, I only get one more crack at this. I could finish, like, I could be the 6th worst team in Ireland and still have a very, very good year, so to speak. But then that gap between 6 and 1 isn't too big at all. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do next year to try and move on, to try and put themselves into a position where they might be able to get back to an All-Ireland final. And Barca end Pog chase as well is the other story here. Barcelona ending their interest in taking Paul Pogba from Manchester United. Back page of the Mirror this morning is Greek at the knees. Rodgers, this is what happens when you don't strengthen.
That's good.
Yeah, that's tab of the morning to you. Greek at the knees. And Man City in racism storm. This is an exclusive by Darren Lewis this morning. Manchester City moving swiftly to take action after their academy chief used a racial slur to describe black players. So this is City youth coach Dean Ramsdale, who's pictured there on the back of the newspaper, who used a pretty awful term to describe young black players, and he's understood to have used a term during a meeting about players in front of City colleagues. So he's been kind of reported internally, it seems. Darren Lewis with the story there. It'll be interesting to see how that one develops. And then a couple of Ben Stokes stories on the front page of the Telegraph sports section here. Back, but for how long? And then the back page of the Guardian is play on. Stokes gets England called, so they're wasting no more time to get him back into the fold.
All right, Cyril Farrell was a very young man when he managed the Galway hurlers to beat Limerick in the All-Ireland final in 1980. He was on with Joe last night, and obviously talk turned eventually to how the game is going to go this weekend. Here's his thoughts.
Well, look, it's a unique final in the sense that Limerick have come out of the blue. I kind of tipped them in the early in the year as kind of the dark horses. They're playing lovely hurling. I saw them in the kind of the Munster League or the Waterford Crystal, what they call it, and they were developing this style of kind of clipping the ball 30-yard passes from cornerback to wing back, getting the midfield and then crisscrossing the ball, giving great space for the forwards into space, and the forwards are fast. But like Galway are very experienced at this stage. Most of these guys have played in, between replays and all, have played in 5 All-Ireland finals in the last few years. Experience, and yet they haven't put, in this year, they haven't put 70 minutes fully together. I expect them on Sunday, if they put that 70 minutes together on Sunday, they'll be extremely hard to beat, because they have great ability, and it's kind of their golden era if they can build on it. Like, a lot of that's coming through this, kind of make hay with the sunshines. They're good enough to put it back to back.
Yeah, it's funny because all year they've almost been talked about as sort of unbeatable, or like the champions in waiting. And then against Clare, I guess it was almost odd to see them looking so vulnerable. It's been a while since we've seen that from them.
Yeah, and they've had a great start, and the same against Kilkenny and kind of holding on. But I expect, it's been a long year, a lot of matches, and they've toured the county. They've kind of serve the public well with the cup and go in places, which you have to do. But I just feel the 2 weeks will get them back on keel again. I expect Gareth McInerney probably to come back into the team if he's fit. I think he will be fit for the next game. They'll be kind of they'll be picking from strength, which is a plus, because it's more than a 15-man game now. You're going to have at least 18, three guys coming on, if not more.
Yeah, pretty abrupt end to Cyril Farrell there last night, but that podcast is available for download wherever you get your podcasts, and you should make sure you subscribe. We also podcast this show, by the way, if you want it a little bit later on in your day, and if you're watching this at the moment and you didn't know this, you can actually just listen to us. We are a breakfast radio show. If that's what you want, just go on to offtheball.com and there's a listen function on there, and if you have any trouble with that, just email us, or you can drop us a tweet at offtheball or at offtheball.am for the specific Twitter feed of this show. Now, let's bring you some Davy Fitzgerald. Obviously the news is coming through this morning that he is sticking around for another year with the Wexford Hurlers. That seemed to be the plan. Certainly when we had Matthew Hanlon on the show a couple of weeks back, he was very keen for Davy to stay, and it was unprompted. It wasn't the type of stuff, yeah, it would be great if he was like, definitely, you know, we've been talking to him, we want him to stay, we feel like we're building something, and we feel like we're on the cusp of progress. So here he is speaking at the Hurling for Cancer game last night. This has been a match that's been organised by Davy Russell over the last number of years with Jim Bulger. It's been in Newbridge, and it's been a fantastic outpouring of the GAA community in the area to try and raise much needed funds for cancer research and for hospice care as well. So here's how the conversation went with Máire Treasa and Davy.
Davy Fitzgerald, you signed on for another year of Wexford.
Yeah, I'm back for another year, so I'm looking forward to 2019 and to see what's to come.
You've had a great run with Wexford this year. I know you would argue maybe it didn't go as well, but I think it did. I mean, just because you didn't get to a Leinster final, that doesn't mean you didn't do any better. I think you added more depth perhaps to your squad this year.
We were 1 point away from getting to the Leinster final. I think we were very unlucky on that night too, to tell you the truth. The difference this year to last year is last year we were in 1B, this year in 1A, and it was like a championship game every single Sunday. So if you look at it, we probably had to get up. Probably before the championship started, we had probably, you could say, the equivalent to 9 championship games, because the Walsh Cup semi-final and final as well. So I just found that we had a lot more top-class games, which probably we petered out a small bit as the championship went on, but I'm extremely proud. Like, of the 15 games we played top class, I think we won 9 or 10 of them, so I can't ask any more than that. And people will say, have they made improvements? If you really look back, you'll see them. There's massive improvements. They've beaten teams they didn't beat in years and years, and they've had great victories, and hopefully there's more to come.
Now, obviously, I know you're going to say, I haven't really thought about it yet, but I know you've got plans and targets already in place for 2019, so what's the target?
Target now is I'm going to have a good Christmas, and I'm really going to enjoy it when it comes around, and we won't even think about it till January or something like that.
Now you're telling lies.
Well, I'm not going to tell you the truth anyhow, all right? I'll have to keep that to myself. That's the way it always goes.
But it's obvious you're enjoying the management there.
I love the people. Love the people. Love the vibe around the place. County board are exceptional to work with. They're very good, and the players, it's a joy to get on and work on them. I didn't think I was going back this year, but them few things kind of changed my mind, and it isn't easy to head down there probably over 100 times in the year and leave at 1 in the day and get back at 1 night, but all them factors make it that bit easier. Am I enjoying it? I've had a great 2 years. Like, the only thing I'd say to them is, don't put pressure on. If you know what I'm about, I will be putting enough of pressure on myself, and I will try and do everything possible for Wexford to be successful, and all you can do is give it 110%, and I'll do that for the Wexford people because they've been very good to me, and let's see where we get on.
They really wanted you back too, from what we've seen reported, that they travelled down to you.
Yeah, no, the players are exceptional. Like, I had a large number come down, and nearly another 20 text me. There was 10 involved at under 21 or something, and it helped a lot to make up my mind, you know, and I could say nothing but good about all them guys. I do anything from.
Yeah, it'd be brilliant to have Wexford back at the top table properly and over a long period of time, because obviously they bring such colour to the championship. And it's Davy in conversation with Máire Treasa yesterday at the Hurling for Cancer game. So, and I think that you can probably still manage to make a donation to that if you would like to. Now, Darren Cleary is here with the Morning Sports News. Darren, how you doing?
Morning, Ger. Very well. Not a good morning for Celtic, though. They suffered agony in Athens as they crashed out of the Champions League qualifiers for the first time since Brendan Rodgers became manager 2 years ago. They failed to qualify for the group stages of the competition. They lost 2-1 at AEK in the second leg of their third qualifying round tie to be knocked out 3-2 on aggregate. To make matters even worse, they must navigate a Europa League playoff if they're to make the group stages of that competition. The issue's not just confined to the pitch last night. Rodgers claims Dedryck Boyata is fit to play and refusing though to do so. The Belgium defender, the subject of a failed €10 million bid by Fulham before the English transfer window closes. Rodgers addressed that last night after the game.
Well, I just feel for the players that are here. You know, these are the guys that wanted to be here. They've earned the right to do that. And like I say, this is a level where we need all the help we can get. You know, the competition now is, as I said, the teams have the resources and everything that they have. So we need as many fit and available of our best players that we possibly can. And all the guys that were here, as I said, over the 2 games have been very good in the main, but like I say, you shouldn't have to lose to learn. I always think that, and tonight we just have to learn from that. But 2 soft goals have cost us really.
It does seem like whatever was going amazingly well at Celtic, the spell has been broken somehow, and it seems to have been broken in a 10 days period.
Well, maybe winning just gets boring. Maybe they have woken up to the idea that...
Ask the Dubs fan here.
Well, yeah,
Says the Kerry man.
It's very different though, isn't it? It's if there was like this sort of other place, like literally hanging on a border, which has football at such a far higher level, which has wages at a far higher level, then I'm sure Dublin players would get disinterested with what they're doing and say, well, I'm too good for this.
How does it always come back to Dublin?
Well, he brought it up.
I am completely perplexed.
But
Dublin fans are not bored of winning. I told you the other day, I was at the game, I was in the Cusack stand, and about 2 people beside me, there were 2 lads, and then 2 over was a mum with her son. And when the first goal goes in, the kid just bursts into tears. And the mum doesn't know what to do, so she's trying to comfort him, and the lads beside me get great crack at it. It's like, it's all right, mate, we're going to win, don't worry about it. But Dublin fans are not bored of winning.
Think of all the kids crying west of the Shannon. But anyway, I'm not talking about the fans. I'm sure the Celtic fans are delighted to have won all the titles over the past couple of years. I'm talking about the players. Maybe Dedryck Boyata's like, yeah, this is great, but there's literally a country down there south of the border where I can make a hell of a lot more money. I can be a hell of a lot more famous. And to be honest with you, I feel my talents would be a hell of a lot more deserving to be in the Premier League. So that's what's happening here, right?
That's how you got your transfer to OTBAM.
Exactly.
You said the same line.
I said to JP producing the evening, no, listen, I'm too good for this.
Celtic fans will tell you that the issues around the fact that Rodgers, with the transfer targets he made, he wasn't really backed. Sutton made a really good point on BT Sport. They spent a couple of million on a fancy light show and upgrading their floodlights, and the fact that they're trying to improve the match night experience. They should really focus on trying to improve on the pitch. And I think that's what Rodgers was unhappy with. The couple of names that he did give, he wouldn't have a particularly lavish lifestyle in terms of the players he wants. His tastes aren't that expensive, but he wasn't backed and he didn't get who he wanted. So apparently any issues you're seeing now on the pitch or in results stems from the fact that maybe Rodgers himself is the one that's unhappy.
Yeah, and might be on the way out. I mean, he still gets linked with good Premier League jobs. I don't know how serious that is, but...
It really all depends. I mean, the belief is that he's well liked at a couple of clubs down in England. He has a good rapport with any player who's worked with him. He could definitely be on radars for a lot of Premier League jobs as well, yeah.
He'd succeed Martin O'Neill and Roy Keane after Euro 2020?
I would take Brendan Rodgers.
So would I.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well,
I think he's the kind of guy that you would need weekly, daily contact with, because he has that thing of making the players like him, in that he just builds them up so much. He seems like a really nice guy.
He can drive around in his nice car, getting driven around in his nice car by somebody else. Oh, how are you, Declan? How are you, Seamus? Oh, you're an amazing footballer, Seamus. I've got these 3 envelopes and they all have your name in them. They're all going to the tickets for the World Cup.
What would Republic of Ireland internationals Conor Houan and Graham Burke make of him if he actually did get the job? They were both on target in the English League Cup last night. Houan grabbed the winner for Aston Villa in their 1-0 victory at the Oval. Burke scored one in Preston's 3-1 victory over Morecambe. He also got man of the match. Padraig Hammond found the net twice as Newport won 4-1 at Cambridge. While the billions paid by broadcasters to Premier League clubs is so great they can no longer rely on match days to make a profit. They don't need it. More than half of Premier League clubs would have played in empty stadiums and still made a pre-tax profit in the first season of the current broadcast deal. That's according to BBC research. Clubs benefited from a record 8.3 billion in global TV revenue. Matchday income contributed less than 20p for every pound earned by 18 clubs in the Premier League just last season. That's some of the figures there. Astonishing stuff, really. Well, Sligo Rovers have put their money where their mouth was following their FAI Cup exit. Players will usually apologise to fans and supporters following a disappointing defeat. The Bitter Red went one further and decided a more meaningful gesture was needed. They have handed back the wages they received from the Longford Town game after they exited the competition at the hands of the First Division side. Sligo currently under a bit of pressure, 8th in the SSE Electricity League table, 5 points clear of second from bottom Limerick, but results really need to improve there. Speaking of handing back wages, the person in charge of the Sky Remote at Bristol Rovers Memorial Stadium is in a bit of bother this morning. Hundreds of fans, including children, were accidentally exposed to X-rated television channel Babe Station in the clubhouse at half-time of the League Cup first round victory over Crawley Town. Bristol Rovers have issued a statement. They say it's not their guy who is responsible. The club believes that someone that was attending in the bar used a universal remote control device to affect our TV output. The matter will be fully investigated. However, the club believes that they have photographic evidence of the individual concerned and this will be dealt with properly.
I mean, that's totally credible.
Like, imagine being that guy and like getting to customs and it's like, sorry, you're not allowed into the United States because you put X-rated television on the Bristol Rovers big screen.
You know, it's a serious thing.
It is a serious thing.
Very serious. You probably shouldn't laugh at it.
No, I shouldn't.
Although you got to admire the ingenuity of changing over Soccer Saturday or
Universal
Matchday
Remotes.
Live.
So 2008 Universal Remotes. We used to have the app on, like we all used to have apps on our phones when we were in secondary school. It's like Universal Remote app, and it's like you'd be watching something in school, and it's like, oh, suddenly the TV goes off, ha ha ha. And like that was kind of the extent of my pranks as being an absolute legend in the classroom.
You weren't a very good prankster on
No, I wasn't.
Meanwhile, Jack O'Connor is said to be closing in on a third term in charge of the Kerry senior footballers. The three-time All-Ireland winning manager appears to be the front runner to replace Eamon Fitzmaurice. Clubs are being invited to submit the candidates for the position with the county board, believed to be keen to make an appointment by early October. While the 2016 Paralympic bronze medal winner Ellen Keane has her first event of the week at the European Championships this lunchtime, the Dubliner will be looking to secure a spot in the 100 metres butterfly final. Nicole Turner back in the pool for her 100 metre breaststroke heat. Sean O'Riordan swims in the heats of the 100 metres individual medley, while Barry McClements goes in the 100 metres butterfly heats.
Okay, quick comments here. Conor McDermott says, surely Kerry need a new voice. Pardon me.
You need a new voice. Hey.
Surely Kerry need a new voice. All respect to Jack O'Connor, but inter-county management has changed even since his short time away. So freshness is needed. New face with new ideas. Hashtag OTBAM.
I get the sense from Brentney's piece that if the information there is all correct and it's going to be seen through, that it's actually going to be potentially a joint manager arrangement, that there is going to be a team installed. So Brentney's saying that a number of clubs are going to write to the county board, give their preferences, and they're allowed to give a number of preferences that they want, and it could lead to a number of names being in the hat, and they might say, listen, Jack O'Connor and Diarmuid Murphy, for example, is your new management ticket, which mightn't be the worst thing in the world. Like, if he's going to be a stopgap solution, I don't really see a whole point in that, but if he's a stopgap solution alongside a young coach like Diarmuid Murphy or Máire Fitzgerald or whoever it may be, maybe even Seamus Moynihan, then they're learning from a three-time All-Ireland winning manager.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of look at the director of football role. It has advanced to the point where in Dublin we have a hurling man and a football man in charge of our hurlers, because nowadays it's more about who works day to day on the training pitch. You kind of need someone to oversee everything, an all-seeing force. A bit like, I mean, you look at what Leinster, they restructured their stuff in the rugby. Leo Cullen still retains the head coach title, but he is the overseer. He's more like the director of rugby, while Lancaster will look after the kind of day-to-day stuff. You can kind of change GAA in that way, in that you need someone to coach the team, but you also need someone to...
Who's picking the team?
Well, that would be the overall manager guy.
Yeah, so...
Like Leo Cullen's picking the team for Leinster, right?
Yeah.
So it would be Jack O'Connor. It would be...
So they're different roles, though, isn't it? Like, you could have a manager who manages the logistics and the time slots that everybody needs to be doing stuff. That seems like having a football person in charge of that is pointless.
Yeah, waste their talent.
Yeah. Like, although in Tim Gavin's case, obviously he's pretty clearly good at organising stuff, given that like his day job is to, you know, organise planes.
But he's changed his backroom every year. He's brought someone else in.
Added to it.
Yeah. The biggest backroom in the country. No one ever leaves, but he seems to add to it. But it kind of debunks the myth then that O'Connor would be out of touch, because it's not the role that it was.
Yeah, and I don't think he's out of touch at all. He's been keeping up with how the youngsters are doing in Kerry by managing every single one of them. So
I think when people say out of touch, I think they were talking about the two bad defeats that the Kerry under-21s, under-20s this year have suffered in the last 2 years. But a lot of people forget the under-20s team was devoid of Sean O'Shea and David Clifford this year. If they had those two players, chances are Jack O'Connor could have managed an All-Ireland winning side.
No.
Or if Kerry had no Clifford, they would have went there.
Well,
Even if they had them, we don't know.
Probably absolute truth. They literally would have had a senior All-Star.
You're inventing history.
Yeah,
I think Kildare still would have beaten them. Kildare would have just raised their game the way they did against everybody else.
Given a reasonable prediction as to what would have happened.
Owen says Davy's rhetoric is starting to change. He's starting to explain his results, which indicates a situation. A Wexford winning team would be great. I'd love to see Limerick/Waterford, i.e. Brick Wexford, in that order. It'd be a new golden era of hurling. Stephen Elliott about Davy says, as a Wexford man, I would have been happy to see him move on. Players' clear desire for him to stay is notable, but the buzz in Wexford is gone, and the end of the season was unacceptable. The system doesn't get the best out of McDonald, etc. Just think back, Stephen, to 2 seasons ago when it was chaos there. So maybe calm down a little bit.
They did beat Cork 2 seasons ago.
Out of nowhere, though, right?
Relatively, yeah, but they did have the big result in their locker. I can kind of see where he's coming from. Like, I would be a big Davy fan. I think the right decision is to keep him on, but I think the way they did exit the championship this year would have been very deflating for a lot of those Wexford fans. I can see where he's coming from.
Frank Greeley says, hey Frank, I love Ciara's honesty, telling it as she is. This is from yesterday's Ciara McGean interview, telling it just as she feels, from the heart and down to earth, no excuses. You need to have strength to carry speed, and the stronger Ciara gets, the faster she'll finish. I see very bright days ahead for this plucky runner. And Frank also said, ask Thomas Barr or Eamon Coughlin or Sonia Sullivan or Rob Heffernan how disappointment actually made them a stronger athlete. You need to experience deep disappointment to fully appreciate great joy. Joy is on the horizon for Ciara. You really hope that Ciara McGean gets her just desserts and ends up back on the podium sometime soon.
Yeah, you'd imagine she will. Like, it's obviously at a continental level. The European Championships are getting so tough. We've seen it on all track events, really. It's not just middle distance. Sprinting in particular has gone up another level in Europe. So she's clearly competing with the best. Obviously, you know, when you look at middle distance and you look at a global level, there's obviously the absolute unquestionable kind of leader in the department in Caster Semenya. So it is a completely different level when she gets to the World Championships and Olympics over the next couple of years. But maybe the Semenya kind of dominance will fade over the next few years.
The way she spoke was so illuminating, though, because she said that she expected another gear. It wasn't kind of a pat on the back. It wasn't a glorious, oh, you're so close, well done. She genuinely has hopes of winning a medal and is firm in her belief that she will do it. And
a pathway to get there as well. Yeah. All right, so Máire Treasa also speaking with Mayo footballer Keith Higgins at the Hurling for Cancer game in Newbridge. Have a look. Thanks, Dan.
It's not often you see a Mayo man hurling, but here we are. Keith Higgins, how did you enjoy your evening?
Yeah, it was great crack now, in fairness. Like I said, it's not often we'd get up this part of the country to hurl with some of the greatest guys that ever played. So, you know, it's a great evening, great cause, and sure, look, it was a bit of crack as well out there, so that's the main thing.
Unfortunately for Mayo, you did come to this part of the country to play football. It didn't go so well. How are things now?
Yeah, there's still a few sore memories coming back to Newbridge again, but sure, look, I suppose that's the joy of the sport, that's the way it goes. You know, we've had a good few weeks to get over it now, so it's still in the back of the mind, but look, you just have to move on with things and try and look forward, I suppose, so that's just the way it goes.
It's probably very little comfort to Mayo, but the narrative the last few weeks has been people saying, God, I wish miss Mayo from the championship.
Yeah, there's been a few headlines saying that, alright, but look, it's I suppose it's probably just taken a while for the championship to kind of get going, and you know, some of the games mightn't have been the best of quality, but look, as long as Dublin and Tyrone are winning, they're not going to care about that, so hopefully it'll be a good final. I think it's got potential to be a kind of a bit of a cracker, right? So, you know, if there's a good final there, it kind of might make up for some of the games, I suppose.
It would have to be a real cracker of a final to make up for, let's face it, a summer that hasn't been particularly inspiring football-wise.
Yeah, true, I suppose. But again, it's a lot of people are probably comparing it to the Hurling Championship, which has been phenomenal. Like, so it's always going to be a bit of a loser when you're comparing it to that. But you know, people are probably making a big deal out of it. Even attendance is there at the semi-finals and all that. But look, you're looking from a goal point of view, that there are hurlers in the Ireland final as well, so that might take away from some of the crowd there. But yeah, you probably would have preferred some teams maybe just gone out and having a bit more of a go and making it a bit more entertaining, but you know, managers aren't in the business of making things entertaining, they just want to win. So
well, that's certainly, Mayo can't be accused of that. Like, Mayo, when they, you know, in the championship, they do go out and they do give a display.
Yeah, and we probably don't make things easy on ourselves, but I think that's one thing we could have said, especially last year, that some of the games were entertaining when, you know, extra times and replays and all that, which isn't ideal sometimes, but you know, like I said, it made it exciting for the fans anyways, I suppose, so that's one thing anyways.
I know some of the players kind of went straight off out to America and they got to enjoy hopefully their summer playing football out there. It must be quite difficult, I'm assuming, to while away evenings when possibly everyone had plans to be training and going to games and that kind of thing.
Yeah, you'd be surprised actually. I mean, I know from my own point of view, view, we're probably back in with the club the following week, and you've club football and club hurling, so you're probably busier with the club than you would have been if you were Mayo, because you can kind of get away from some of them sessions. So some of the boys headed off and to America, and it's kind of hard to blame them as well when there's not going to be a championship game for a few weeks. So look, my point of view was it's been busy for weeks, but it keeps out of trouble anyways.
Finally, one of the other big talking points the last few weeks have obviously been Stephen Rochford, backroom team, that kind of thing. I'm sure for your own sake you'd rather things would just settle down, but how are things standing at the moment, do you know?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to give you a big exclusive and all that, but honestly I seen the headlines there today as well that he's staying on. Knew kind of the boys had gone right the last couple of weeks, which is kind of no surprise really. In fairness, they've been there for a good while, I suppose, apart from Tony, been there 2 or 3 years, but you need maybe that consistency with Stephen there again. He'll probably bring in a new backroom team, might fresh things up. So look, it's only August yet, another couple of months, boys taking their minds off it might be a good thing, and get back into it then probably October, November, December time, and see what next year brings.
Well, I suppose take the positive slant in it. It's been an opportunity that you didn't want, but you now have a good length of time to control alt delete, turn the page, play some hurling, play some club football, and focus again.
Exactly, yeah. Like I said, it's just a matter of kind of whatever about the bodies, even for the mind, so just to get away from the whole hype of the whole thing for a few months, and like I said, recharge and just go back to your club, maybe have a bit more fun, a bit of crack on evenings like this, and just enjoy things. I said look forward to next year again, and if the FPD doesn't be long coming around, so you just have to look forward to it and take the positive out of it, I suppose.
That's it, because as a Mayo player you're one of the most best supported teams in the country, but a lot of pressure and expectation come with that. And if there's one positive, I know obviously your fans are great, but it must be kind of nice to not be carrying that weight all day. Yeah, big time. And like you said, we'd always say we're the best supporters in the world, and they'll travel all over the place to support us, but come FPD there'll probably be 5,000 or 6,000 our first game, the league the exact same thing. And even from my own point of view, just hurling away at Mayo last year, getting away from the whole pressure of the league, I found it great. Like, there's no pressure on you, you can just go out and enjoy yourself, and at the end of the day I think we have to get back doing that, is just enjoying what we're doing, whether it's football or whatever, and that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
OTBAM is live with Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
Yeah, sorry, the Kerry story this morning, by the way, is coming from Colm Keys, not Martin Breheny. I kept saying Breheny this morning, but his face is on the back of the paper. I didn't actually read the byline, Ger, so sorry to Colm Keys. He's got the story.
It's a design issue. Right, let's
blame someone else.
20 years ago today, a bomb in Omagh killed 29 people. Last week, we travelled to the town to speak to 3 GAA-men whose lives changed in very different ways on that day.
That's the location where the car was located.
Okay, so and you were standing where?
I would have walked past it, down past the car here, came to this lights, and diagonally walked across and went into Crawford and Wilson's over here. This is where the blast came, and as soon as the blast went off, I faced the bus depot direction, and I covered my hands like this, and then I could look between here and here, and the smoke rising.
It's unbelievably close.
Yeah, you're talking about 20-30 yards. Yeah. You'll see the car bomb itself, or the car that had the bomb in it, and this would have been me coming out of the hardware shop, and as I say, people were walking across with a green man here at this stage, and for some reason I didn't. If I had ran, I would have been up beside it, and who knows what, so you thank these wee lucky stars somewhere along the line that sometimes, what's meant to be is meant to be, and you just, in a way, hope that you can keep moving on with life. And I would say that photograph was taken 30 seconds, 1 minute before that bomb went off, because that was me walking back up towards it. And next thing, this almighty bang happened. It's very hard to describe the explosion, the sound of it. It was like a skyscraper falling down and concrete just banging against the wall.
Sounds like my mum talking. That's what this is. What does it say?
It is. I actually, and as soon as that bang went off, the first thing I did was I put up my arms to cover my head, and I could feel the vibrations. I was 25-30 yards away from the car, and it was shaking me, and all I could hear was a the Slevins chemist behind me. It was all glass front, and this was the shrapnel coming and hitting the windows and the glass all falling around me. And I was thinking, I have a semi-final of a championship tomorrow. I can't fall on this ground. And I was more worried that the glass was falling all around me, and I had a match the next day, and I didn't want to be falling onto the grass, all onto the glass. So I was sort of trying to keep myself steady, and I remember, as I say, it was covered myself up like this here, and I was sort of looking between my shoulder and my hand, and I could see the explosion, the big puff of smoke, and just silence, pure silence for that couple of seconds. That it was just unearthly. It was just like something you couldn't imagine. Such a massive bang, and then pure silence. It sounded like for the guts of maybe 30 seconds a minute, but it probably was only a couple of seconds. And then within a couple of seconds, all I could hear was screaming, and children screaming. And I started walking towards it, and I met a friend, a friend that I would have played football with, but I would have played football with his brother. And I met him right in the middle of the road. He then says, come on down, I have a flat down, just down the bit of the road, I'll get you cleaned up. And I says, why? And I looked down, and the blood was just rushing down my leg, So what happened was there was shrapnel that came from the car and inserted into my left thigh. So unbeknownst to me, it was only a few years later that I realised, the roar that I let out wasn't the roar from the sound of the bang, it was the actual shrapnel coming in through my thigh, And so then we went actually down to my friend's flat, where he was sharing with his girlfriend, and I went up to the toilet and I started taking off my jeans and checking to see how bad it was, And when I was taking it off, there was a piece of metal. It was the size of a tube, about that size, and it was stuck into where my pocket was in my jeans. And the police were taking statements of everybody, and Rory came back to me and says that the piece of metal that was stuck on your jeans, it was actually one of the only pieces that the police had found of the actual bomb. So that was a bit scary to hear that. So I sort of tried to cover it up, and I was thinking, am I going to be okay? All I was thinking was football. I had a championship semi-final the next day. This was my dream, to play in county finals. And I thought, maybe I'm okay, and I was able to walk. And his girlfriend at the time was saying, come on, we'll bring you to the hospital. And I says, I don't need to go to the hospital.
So the bomb went off at 3:10. Can you recount the couple of minutes leading up to it?
I had a wee business, and I was just working away, and I heard the bang, and then I heard glass breaking, so I knew it was significant. And where the shop was, the back of it faced up towards Healy Park, which is a complete opposite direction. It's north of where the bomb went off, but I could hear women and children screaming, and I thought that might be my family, because up towards where I live was the army camp, and I thought maybe somebody's attacked the army camp. And so I thought I'd better go up and check my family's okay. And because I'm a part-time firefighter, well, I was at that time, I was carrying an alerter. And as I drove out to go home, the alerter went off, and I was turned out to the station, to the fire station, which was only about 50 metres away. And that in itself was only about, half a kilometre away from where the bomb went off. So it didn't take long for six of us to get turned out in the lorry. But at the same time, we were very relaxed, because we said, well, it's a courthouse. It said the courthouse. It's probably damaged. There may be a fire. We'll go and see what we can do. So there's no real stress now we're quite calm about it.
And then from there, what happened? You arrived at the courthouse?
No, we didn't get to the courthouse. We swung around onto the Ra Avenue and headed towards the bridge. And from there, I started to see there was this scene. There was dust. There was people running everywhere. And it was just, and as we got closer, from being a sort of happy in the lorry, it just went quiet.
And all I could just see was dust and people running around, and it looked like something like the atomic bomb. Have you ever seen a picture where the wee girl run around just in the dust, nowhere to go? It was just like people screaming. And we pulled up just where that red van roughly is now, and as we pulled up there, I remember looking out, and on the curb I see my mum.
And I remember thinking, she said still her day she'd never forget the look on my face when I seen her. And I jumped out with my breathing apparatus on and asked her, was she okay? And she said she was. And I said, listen, I have to get to work. And but it transpired that she actually walked in front of the car that had been parked in front of the bomb when it went off. And I remember I was thinking, why are you just holding a toothbrush? But the bag she was carrying had been blown out of her hands. All she had was the strands of it. So from there we just went to work. We went to help wherever we could, and found out that if you ever want to feel useless, that was the place to be.
Why did you feel so useless? Just because people were just beyond the point of even helping?
Well, yeah, you're looking around you and there's members of the public using doors as stretchers, people carrying people, or people running around didn't know where to go. The lady who was, my mum wasn't, I could see wasn't physically injured, but there was one beside her and was really, really badly injured. My mum said, listen, Pat, would you give help? You need help this morning? And I looked around, I think, I've been training first aid. I always thought when I get trained first aid would be great, because I played football and I always thought the first thing I asked, what do you do when someone swallows your tongue? That's all was in my head. That day, none of these things were any good, all the different things they taught me. And I thought, where's an ambulance? There's far too many people. There couldn't be enough ambulance in the whole of Ireland. Then I noticed there was an ulcer bus that pulled up. So I took this woman by the arm, and I remember it was a real strong smell of her whatever caused her injuries. And I got her into and that stuck with me. Even the next day I could smell this. And I got her on the bus and sat her down. This Ulster bus full of people. And I remember looking down on the way out and seeing this red floor. And going down. And you felt you couldn't help nobody. I had friends who I knew. And because you're local in Omagh, you're serving your local people. People were shouting, Paddy, help me, help. I can't find the children. I can't find my wife. And you're struggling with that because you can't help them. There's too many people. There's too much debris. There's too many people. You know, one man said to me, Paddy, help me. That's my wife lying dead there in the shop. I know that. But I need to find the two girls. Help me, help me. And you can't. And then your boss calls you, Paddy, we need to go search the shop. And you're going wading through it, and everything in the shop is just landed on the floor. And you're trying to think, and you think, have you found somebody? Trying to find somebody alive. And then not being able to do it, and that feeling of just being useless. I had peace in a sense that people, the guys I'm working with, are running around going, where's my son, where's my wife? Because they didn't know where they were. They were meant to be in the town, and they were so stressed about that. But I had lifted my son Jordan from the town at 1:30, and I knew I'd left him home. So I was working, I didn't have that same stressor. So I was just doing what I needed to do. Things, yeah, so that's why it was easier for me at that time. But I didn't realise how much of an impact that had me until on the Tuesday after they done a debrief in the fire station, and they asked us, the crew sat us down and started, right, tell us what you done from 10 past, or from you got up in the morning at 8 o'clock to 10 past 3. And I realised this, maybe the fifth person to be interviewed, I couldn't remember anything. I only remembered one thing, and that was that Jordan I'd lifted him. And that was just something that happened that time. I mean, it was his birthday that day. We gave him his present before we went to work, and that's how I realised how much of an impact. But also, I had a real strong. He asked me what was I thinking. One of the strongest thoughts I had that day was I remember going diagonally across Market Street in the top of Campsie, and I thought to myself, because I'd often thought watching the television during the Troubles and watched people saying, "I can't forgive. I'll never forgive," and I sometimes thought, surely you could. Why can you not? You know, I didn't understand it. But that day run across the street, I thought to myself, now I know why people can't forgive. I'd seen things I thought, I can understand why people can't forgive. Because it was so terrible. As I explained, in life, and especially as a firefighter, you see things that people don't see. And you have this bucket of life. And every time that incident would have been half filled my bucket, maybe more. And every time you get an experience that fills it till a point, if you don't empty it through these diffusion and go and get help, which I was able to deal with it, and I can deal with it now because I've learned to deal with it, but if you don't, that'll overflow, and someday you'll just get post-traumatic stress. And I've seen people suffer that, and there's no comeback from it. They can't handle it if you don't get it early, because it is a significant thing to happen. But for me, thankfully, they were worried for me at the time because I didn't have these memory things, and they would phone me up to check was all right. But as time went on, went on holiday, I had real bad dreams about things I couldn't possibly dreamt, only I'd seen them. Because your mind does things with you, it blocks things out. You sort of walk and like you have tunnel vision, you have blinkers on nearly in a sense. That's because your mind is protecting you. And so I learned that, but it's probably made me, death brings it very home, death home to you. As you're a young footballer, as you're playing football, you think you're invincible. And then you see something like that there and you realise that, blimey, I'm only here by a thread. I could be standing there and that's it, and I don't get to say cheerio to my wife or my children. And you start to think, start to think more about your own immorality, an awful lot more. You realise that you're not the invincible person that you thought you were or you believed you were. You're not Bruce Willis.
I don't really see. There's word that Tristan just on to the right hand side of the car, but there's a white jacket there, so I think she was wearing a white jacket that day.
Karl, can you explain what your memories of growing up with Brenda?
She was like, I suppose like she's a big sister to me. I have two obviously older brothers, but we're closer of age. Me and Brenda, there's only 2 years between us, like, and she was kind of like a best friend, really, and then she was a bit of a tomboy, and all five of us, or four of us, would go to the field together and play football together, and that's probably how she got involved in football, and she was just like a best friend, really, to me,
And she ended up then the Tyrone Minors?
Tyrone Minors, and obviously Logue leaders, and then just before the bomb she was called up to the Tyrone Ladies senior squad, and she obviously never got to go there, but she had a massive interest in football, and she has her tournament. They've created a tournament for the anniversary of it. There's a tournament now on Saturday, tomorrow, so 2:00. So there's a pile of teams coming to just commemorate her, and there'll be a trophy and stuff like that there. So she's a big part to play,
You were obviously very proud of her.
Okay, definitely. I named my daughter, my first child after her, so I'm very proud of her. Definitely. I went out and played football all the time. Really, that's what it always was in Logue. Go out and play football, come home from school. You're running up the street with a bit of bread hanging out of your mouth, to go and play football. That's all. And where Logue girls and boys all just went and played together, and that was it. And then because Brenda was a girl, she was stuck in goals, and that's why she was a good goalie. So me and my brother and a pile of our friends went to play indoor soccer down at the club, and then as we were coming out, there's a woman that owned the place said there was a bomb in Omagh, and we were like, Jesus, Mummy and Brenda and Granny's there. She says, oh, don't worry about it, there's nobody hurt, it was up at the courthouse, don't worry about it. So we were like, so that's okay. So we just walked up, say 200 or 300 yards, and it just changed dramatically. Our next door neighbour came out and she said there's a bomb in Omagh. First person I goes, there's nobody hurt. And she goes, no, there's people badly hurt. So we're like, oh God, this isn't good. So we went into the house, and the neighbour came in, me and my brother was there, and then another neighbour came down in, and they were like, your mum and all's in the town, and I was like, yes. So we all jumped in cars and we headed towards Omagh, and we're halfway down, say, the Cookstown line there, and I met my auntie coming. So I was like, there's my auntie Bridget. So the neighbour flashed the lights, stopped, and sure enough my granny was in the passenger seat, and she was rightly covered in blood and stuff. So we were like, look, your mum's okay, but we can't find Brenda. And then so I was 15, they wouldn't let me go in then, so they changed me over into my auntie's car, and I actually lived with her from the Saturday to the Wednesday till we found out Brenda was dead. And then but my brother, he went on head in, his girlfriend actually was pregnant at the time, so she lived in Omagh, so he was panicking like mad, so he went on head in, and I stayed with my auntie then for the whole time.
So it took that long to find out that Brenda...
Yeah, well I think they found out on the Tuesday night, and then an uncle of mine went to identify her, and then my brother came in to me on the Wednesday morning and just says, look, and I just said to him before he even spoke, as soon as he came in, because I hadn't seen him in a couple of days, and he came in and I just said, look, she's dead, isn't she? And he goes, aye. So then that was really it, So
I then went to round the far side of the town and came in another side of the town, and when I was coming in, it's just down here about 100 yards or so. I was coming in through this junction here, and there's an orange hall just down there and by the bus depot, and everybody started sprinting past the car, and we rolled down the window and where's everybody going? And there was talk of a secondary explosion. So at this stage I just panicked and I said, just get me out of Omagh, just get me out of here. So, and I'll never forget, there was this white van that just done a 360 and scraped the whole van up the side of the orange hall where there was cement pillars coming out, and I just said, get me out of here. So he drove out, and he drove out towards St Julian's Road, and I had a friend out there, and I went into him. At this stage I was starting to feel a wee bit of the leg, I And I went into his house, and it was a friend of my older brother's. I says, I've got hit here, that there's been a bomb in Omagh. So he gave me a pair of shorts. Again, I cleaned up the wound and stuff and dried it all up. And I says, listen, just bring me up to the house, bring me up to home. And I give him the keys of the house. And as I say, I live at the very top of Omagh, just beside Sally O'Brien's, beside the courthouse. So I was sort of used to hearing these explosions going off, okay, from a distance and from the house, but I would still hear the vibrations of the house moving. As soon as the courthouse went, we would have lived through maybe 6-7 bombs where we knew the bomb was happening and it would have exploded. There was ones at Radio Rentals, SD Kells, the courthouse, over the years since I was young. So that day, I actually thought there was going to be a bomb at the courthouse because there had been bombs in Banbridge and a few other places by the rail area, but I didn't expect it to happen down where it did happen. So got to the house, and Robbie went into the house and says, your mum's not there. And this is when I really freaked, because that morning I had left to go to watch a soccer match just to waste time again because of the match, and some of my friends were playing in it. And my mum said she was going down the town shopping. So at this stage I was like, my mum's not there, where is she? Why is she not at the house? You know, she told me she was going down town to do a bit of shopping and then she'd go back up. She didn't come back up. That was my fear, that was my worst fear at that stage. So I says, I've no other option here but to go to hospital. So again, he put on the hazard lights, and whether the police thought he was a doctor or something, but he was going up the middle of the roads, got me to the hospital, and at this stage I was starting to limp a wee bit more, and I needed a bit of hand into the A&E area of the hospital. And when I landed the A&E, it was just unbelievable, the scenes, you know, it was just everywhere was taken with people lying, strapped, blood, you know. I remember the nurses coming to me and saying, you know, are you okay to go to a different hospital? And I said, that's fine, no problem. And they then airlifted me with the Chinook, and a Chinook with some of the Carton Bakery girls and probably about 10 to 15 people. And they brought me to Enniskillen Hospital. At this stage, when they were bringing me out, I couldn't walk. You know, the adrenaline had sort of worn off, and I couldn't put any pressure on the leg. And they put me in a trolley and wheeled me up onto the Chinook. Chinook brought me to the Enniskillen Hospital. And I'll never forget coming off the Chinook and being wheeled into there in the hospital. And there was about 15 to 20 people along the corridor. And I remember the doctor then walking along and sort of testing each of the patients that were coming along. And he came to me, and as soon as he touched his hand on my left thigh, I just felt as if it was like a driving lessons. Their driving instructor gave me legs started shaking uncontrollably. It just started going into a spasm, and I was mortified because, you know, I thought it wasn't just a sort of a few weak cuts and nothing more. And next thing then, I spent 5 days in hospital, and I got the shrapnel removed, and I got a gash about the arm length on my left thigh. So the first thing you want to do, you know, you were thinking about football. You know, that was my life at that stage, was playing football, and all I wanted to do was play football. And during them 5 days in hospitals, you know, almost in the end, it couldn't have been better. The amount of players that were coming up to meet me. Mickey Hart had left up a jersey of a 97-98 polo shirt that was a commemorative sort of polo shirt for Paul McGurr's passing away of that team, and they had just won the All-Ireland, or they were in the process of winning the All-Ireland of that year. Pat McEnany, the referee, had come up because he'd refereed me in Sigerson games. You know, it was just a community. I'd also played rugby for Omagh, so, you know, there was rugby people coming up to give me support and well wishes. But it was really just, you know, I wanted to get back to normality and get back onto the football field. A few weeks later, we were playing Donegal, and my best mate he's since recently just passed away, but he started the game and he scored a goal in the first couple of minutes, you know, and it just made my day that he was there, and he was fighting for us and fighting for the town in a way, and we got to the final.
How many weeks after was the county semi-final?
You know what? I don't even remember, because see that time, it might have now been 3 weeks.
Say 3 weeks.
You know what? It was a period of numbness. You didn't. Weeks and days didn't really count. You didn't. It was just like everything had stopped, and the game was to be played, but we never knew when it was to be played. It was like you were preparing for a game, but you didn't know how to prepare for it. You didn't. For me, my mind was on the bomb a lot, on the people, the families. I thought a lot about that, and when they played the game was coming up, I really didn't know how I was going to handle it. How, you know, was I going to play the game for the people, or was I playing for the team? You get lost in the whole emotion of the time and the whole trauma of it all. And when it came to the game, I remember sitting in the dressing room and just sitting, put my head down, and people probably thought I was focusing on the game, you know, I was trying to get in, but I was crying, because the emotion was still there and you hadn't got it, so you just kept your head down, and the team talk was going on, so you just, tears were down your face, you just kept your head down, and then you just go out onto the field. And I just truly love playing in Carrickmore, because it creates attention you don't get nowhere else, and you felt everybody was there. It was a sort of a summer balmy evening. It felt like that, you know, and we went out, it was quite warm, and I don't think nobody will beat us that night. It was like we had an Irish spirit with us. We just, I know for me, even though I was the oldest man probably in the team, I think at 35, I just felt like a young fella. I felt something, even when the game finished, I didn't feel like celebrating, but I felt I could run on and on and on.
And then you had the county final a short time after that.
County finals just didn't happen for us. It was like nearly an anticlimax to the semi-final.
The build up to it though, was it loaded with kind of everything that had happened with the bombing, that it felt like, you know, this might be something to lift the town after the terrible time it's been through?
Well, that was muted, but we kept that down a wee bit. We just tried to focus on playing the game, but there was, I think, quietly players amongst us, the team was, if we could win it from it, but nobody actually put it out there, but you could sense that's what people wanted to do. We wanted to win it so badly.
We got to the final, and I say I was getting hopeful that I was going to take part in it, because there was a chiropractor, and he was also linked to the club. It was Shawnee Mailer's uncle. Mailer's what was it? Sort of, what would be the chiropractor, and he had rung me and says, you know, he had a machine to get rid of scar tissue, so I was on that there 4, 5, 6 hours a day.
Were you in a fit state to be playing in that county final? You came on, did you?
I came on in the last couple of minutes. I probably wasn't in a fit state, if truth be honest, but it was maybe a token gesture by the club that, you know, maybe something could happen if I was moved into the full forward line. I could maybe get something, but the ball didn't come. I'll say.
What did it feel like coming on, and like, was there a bit of a cheer for the crowd because of what you had gone through?
There was a massive round of applause, you know, and that gave me a small boost. You know, all I was thinking about was winning the county final. I had a miraculous medals, I had a bag of miraculous medals that I found actually the day before, and I put them in my pocket that day, the day of the Saturday, and I've never taken them out of my wallet since, and I still have them on me, and I always do, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. So, it's a well tattered thing, but. That's in there.
So it's just from the day before you got those?
The day before, I put them under my pocket, and I've never taken them out of my wallet, or every wallet I've had since, I've always put them in.
It was years before I walked the street. I seen it as somewhere where people had died. Just you go in a graveyard, you don't walk across graves. I respected death, I respected people, I respected what happened, and I wouldn't walk the street. My wife would say, "Come on, let's go down the street." No, I walk around to the bus station. Or there was another entry where they gathered the body, people who had died. I wouldn't walk down there either, because I knew they had gathered them there, I'd seen them put in there, and I wouldn't do it. It took years before I could actually get, and one day my wife said, "No, you need to go down and just at least go to the mark of the place. And actually, it took me even longer to drive it, because he used to go through the town. It would be shorter. I wouldn't go through it. So one day, a friend of mine just said, "Listen, big man, you need to get us over this," because I couldn't do it, because you just so respect for people. Your heart went out to them, the pain of it all, and you thought of the pain that they're suffering, and I had just so much respect for them that I just couldn't do it.
I think even like yourselves, that were there and witnessed some things, I think people lose a wee part of themselves, witnessing some of the things, things that normal people should never, witness, that kind of way. So just listening to them men talking, about things and about the silence and then the screaming and things like that. I've heard this all before, loads of times from my mum, saying all these things, So it just sounds so familiar, hearing them things come out,
Would a criminal conviction, would that in any way?
It wouldn't make me feel any better. And no, I wouldn't get up in the morning and stop missing her, you know what I mean? It would bring probably the word justice, and you would think, well, you done that, you deserve to be, or you deserve to get some sort of whatever repercussion for that. But it wouldn't make me, if I went the rest of my life and nobody was ever convicted, I don't think I'd feel any different than the way I feel right now.
So was it more kind of a low feeling? Is it a rage that you would have had?
It was a rage I would have had when I got older. It was a rage, and I would have took it out whenever I went out, and especially when I went on the football field as well. When I crossed the white line, I had a point to prove I was small, and I had a chip on my shoulder, you know what I mean. And I'm sure these boys would know that I would maybe received an odd red card and stuff but. I carried that for a long time, so I still would carry it, that chip on my shoulder even when I play football. I would still have that age to me, always, so.
Would you trace that to this?
It had to be something, because I was never like that,
Sometimes I see the next day, actually, and just because I came up with it there now, I remember thinking that there's somebody sitting with maybe their parents or their wife or their children having Sunday dinner, knowing that they left that car there. And I think about that a lot. That day, the day after, I thought about it a lot. I think, how do you live with that? How do you put that together? As much as I thought so much for the people who were like Niall and Karl's sister and all these people who died, I thought about that a lot. But I just wondered, how could somebody square that? How could they sit and look at, say, their parents, knowing they had done that? Or caused it, should I say. Maybe they didn't mean to do it, just the devastation. Maybe they just meant to do a building. Maybe it was the courthouse that they wanted to do, and that's seen as the seat of British law. And I can see where that's coming from. And what happened was maybe something that they didn't mean to plan to do. I don't believe that anybody actually set out to kill 31 people and then maim and injure hundreds more. But the problem is that they did.
I lost. It's like Paddy was saying, how does the men sit, with their own families then, for by evidence running, how does them people sit then with their own loved ones and know what they done, how could you ever love, how could that sit with you, just that's beyond me,
It'll come to them at some stage. That's the way I look at it. If not in this life, the next, it's a tough world, and they have to carry that the rest of their lives. I wouldn't like to be carrying it.
Yeah, if you missed any of that, we'll put it up on youtube.com/offtheball a little bit later on today. And as I said there, thanks very much to Joe McMahon for helping make the piece happen. But of course, thanks to the three lads as well, to Niall McSorley, to Paddy, Quinn and to Karl Logue for being so generous with their time and with their stories. The interviews and story were by Shane Stapleton, and the video and production was by Joseph Conroy. Let's move on. We're going to talk about the hurling this weekend, and I'm delighted to say Richie Bennis is with us this morning to look back and to look forward. Richie, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm pretty good. One of the things that we wanted to do before we look forward to the weekend's game was to just look back to 1973 and the All-Ireland final that day when you guys were so successful in beating Kilkenny. Owen was looking at the newspapers from the time. I hadn't realised you'd scored 10 points that day.
Yes, scored 10 points. Well, I was taking the frees, of course, you know. And, well, I wouldn't have scored 10 points only for the help I got from the rest of the team.
The pre-match previews had Kilkenny being 3 or 4 point favourites, maybe 5 point favourites. So did you guys feel like you were underdogs heading into the final?
We did. That didn't concern us. We concentrated on what we were capable of doing, and we knew our capabilities. And as it so worked out, we beat Kilkenny on the day because I think the whole team turned up for the match and hurled very well.
Was there is there much that you remember about the craziness of the build-up? It has to have been crazy because it was a while before you'd been successful. So
it was something similar to the present setup, because the present setup are actually longer waiting. So with a bit of luck, I hope that we'll be second best after next Sunday, and that we'll have no heroes to cheer on. But on 73, well, there was a fierce build-up, but you had the same media set up that time. But everywhere you went, there was flags and you had and whatever, and anyway, you'd be known better as players then, because we had no helmets, and you'd be recognised by that present. The players you would know them if you see them down the street, a lot of them.
What was that? Was it a pressure that you felt at that time then, Richie, or was it kind of an acceptance that this is the way it was, and that you were almost delighted to be recognised in the street in the lead up to what was one of the biggest games in Limerick hurling history?
Well, believe it or not, no, we didn't feel that much under pressure, you know. We felt that we were good enough, and of course, naturally enough, we were fed up. We still respected it, listened to the Mick Mackey era and the whole lot, and the presence of are fed up and listening to our era. So I don't think we suffered big time from nerves. The preparation had to be lower key than what it is now. And we were on the road a while, where this team is young, you know.
That Kilkenny team that you played against was pretty good. There were some household names in it, and they'd been in the last number of All-Ireland finals before that, so there would have been a sense that you kind of knew a little bit about them at least.
Well, did we see, unlike the present setup, we had beaten prior to this year. We had beaten Kilkenny in league matches, so we knew their setup. And hurling was more of a control game that time. See, you knew what to expect, you knew who you were on, and you knew what you had to do on the day, and you knew the area you had to win. Whereas now, positions don't come into the game at all.
I was looking at that Kilkenny team this morning, and some, absolutely household names: Noel Skehan, Fan Larkin, Pat Henderson, Frank Cummins, Chunky O'Brien, Pat Delaney at centre forward. That's the famous Pat Delaney bounce, is it? That's that guy. Yeah. Okay. And then obviously Brian Cody, not quite as famous at that stage, Brian Cody, as he was now, but so that was a decent team.
Oh, to the great teams. So they'd beaten all around, and they'd beaten the good Wexford teams, and you know. So and we were after beating Tipperary in the Munster final, and we went on to play London, believe it or not, in the semi-final, which was played in a place called Ennis, which was unusual for an All-Ireland semi-final.
How did that game go, Richie? I hear there's a story behind that.
Behind what?
The London game. I didn't look.
We had brother versus brother. You had Jack Ray. Well, not Jack Ray. I forget his first name now. On Ned Ray. You know. So there was an awful lot of Limerick connections on the London team that day.
And I'd say everybody listening and watching would think, you must have beaten them handy, but not at all.
We did not. I think we only beat them by 7 points. You know. And at one stage, there was only 3 points between us. But that time, a Danish pitch wouldn't be of the same calibre as it is now. You know, to be to be a very heavy, dead pitch. And it suited London White to play there, I don't know, but that was the way it was.
Did you take them for granted a small bit?
Oh, I'd say so.
Yeah?
You'd have to. You know, of course, the only thing about they were after beating Galway in the quarter-final.
So they had some sort of pedigree from that season?
Oh, they had, yeah. Yes.
I hadn't realised that. That's mad, and so many good players. And what about your team? Why was your team able to beat that great Kilkenny team? Who else?
We great players. No, we great players. Pite in Eamon and Máire. We great players for the full back up to the full forward. Every one of them were capable of putting in a performance which they did. And of course, the best thing that was done on the day was, and that was because of our centre back. He broke. Jim O'Donnell had broken his leg earlier on the year. Eamon Creagh went back centre back, and he dominated the match.
Who was marking you in that 73 final?
Liam O'Brien.
All right, Chunky
O'Brien.
So would you say that you gave him the runaround?
No. He gave me the runaround. He was away faster than I was, but we came up with a kind of a tactic that I would stay between him and our goals rather than I'd be at the other side of him chasing, because I wouldn't be able to catch up with him. So prevention was the cure that day.
When you're a free taker, obviously there's a bit of extra pressure on you, but does it also help your own game? And a big occasion like that where you start slotting a few frees early on and you're like, okay, actually this is going all right.
Yes, it does. It's a big help to you, but then the opposite will happen. If we miss a few frees, your confidence will go down a bit. But on that day, everything went right for me as far as free taking was concerned. So it helped my general play then.
So at some point in the second half, Kilkenny take the lead again, but you actually run out quite clear winners. In your own memory, is there a point in the game where you think, and then is there a later point where you go, actually, this is going to be all right?
Just at the start of the second half, Crotty, I can't think of his first name now, he came in along and he was just on the verge of the square. He's had a shot at goal, and Seamus Horgan made a brilliant save. I think that was the turning point of the match.
Mick Crotty, I think it is.
Mick Crotty, yes.
Looking at the team sheet there, yeah.
Yeah.
And so from that point forward, you guys just take control and win the game.
We took control. Then we got we got the goal, which was very important.
You win by 7 points.
By 7 points, yes.
And look, it's obviously the time when pitch invasions were not just allowed but actually encouraged, it seems. So there's an outpouring of emotion for everybody. What's your abiding recollection of finally winning an All-Ireland with Limerick?
Well, first of all, it was the first, and I think if it's not a journey, 80 minutes. So the 80 minutes that day.
All right.
You know, and but my memory of the thing is when coming near the end, when we knew we the match won, which you don't ever know if the match won until very near the end when you're playing Kilkenny. The crowd were on the verge of the sideline, ready to invade the pitch, and we were Kilkenny were just taking a puck out. No, Limerick were just taking a puck out, and I say if McClatchy didn't blow the whistle that day, the crowd have still invaded the pitch.
And so, like, what happens then? Like, do you feel fulfillment straight away? Is it years later you think, okay, that was a great thing we did? Like, what do you remember about the achievement itself for you?
Well, that's what I remember that, and I remember when we were presented with the cup above in the Hogan stand, we looked down on the sea of green and white on the pitch, which was you could see none of the pitch. There were so many on it, and the most abiding thing was that time it was all paper hats, and it was raining all day, of course, and it rained during the match, of course. And you could see all the faces of the Limerick supporters with the dye of the paper hats running down along it.
Class. The green crepe paper hats, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just about old enough to remember them.
Gosh.
Owen's here going, what the hell are the lads talking about? Richie, then the celebrations are obviously amazing, and like, do you feel as a team that you're going to go on and have another couple of years? Is there a sense that like that team doesn't quite fulfil its achievement, or was that as good as it should have got for that team that actually you were coming to a natural end anyway?
No, we kind of the following year we didn't put in this. I don't think we put in the same effort. We hadn't the same hunger in training that we had in 73, and it told in the final. Although we got a great start in the final of 74, we were 7 points off after about 10 minutes, and Kilkenny got 2 goals, one after another. That took the sting off our performance.
And they got a bit of revenge.
A bit of revenge is right, if that's what you call it.
How useful was that experience for you then when the team that you managed reached an All-Ireland final in the noughties?
Well, as you know, it's only a coincidence that I became manager in 2007. Limerick played Clare below in Ennis in 2006, didn't perform, and then Joe McKenna, who didn't manager, resigned. And of course, I got a phone call from a supporter. Would I be interested in it? And of course, I just said out of joke I would if the money was right. And next phone call I got was from an officer of the county board. Was I prepared to take it over in the interim period? So after that, then we played awfully below Tullamore in a qualifier, and then we played Dublin in the Gaelic grounds. So we qualified for the quarter final, which we played Cork below and Thurles, and they beat us by a pint, and I think they were lucky to beat us by a pint. And then I was up for election, and the county board picked me as manager, and we had a good year in 2007. We did 3 matches against Tipperary. And against Waterford in the Munster final, I think we were very unlucky. We were beaten by 10 points eventually, but we missed three goal chances in the first 10 minutes. But then we rectified that in the All-Ireland semi-final. We took all our goal chances.
Yeah, that All-Ireland semi-final was mad.
Yeah, because Waterford actually had every hotel and whatever booked for the All-Ireland final, because Limerick people on the way home after the All-Ireland semi-final rang hotels and they were all booked out, but the following morning they were all vacant.
You didn't know that going into the game? You weren't able to use that as part of your team talk in the semi-final, were you?
Sorry?
You weren't able to use that as part of your team talk in the...
Oh, no. That was afterwards.
Post-event.
I know. Well, no, we were very relaxed going up in 2007. We knew we were good enough to beat them because we had studied our Munster final performance, and we felt we were good enough to beat them. And then, as I said, in the team performed, everything went right for them. And when things go right for you, the result always ends up right.
How crazy did things get after that Waterford game in 2007, Richie? Was there an explosion of emotion and an explosion of hype unlike anything you've ever seen? Was it comparable to 1973 at all?
Oh, it was street ahead of 73. It was unreal. But I was at a different stage in it. I was manager, which is different to being a player, like, you know. Everywhere you went, it was unreal. There was a sea of green and white everywhere. I think it was even bigger than what it is now, because after the 3 matches against Tipperary, that got the crowd following Limerick, you know. And then when we beat Waterford, which we weren't expected to do, and no punter gave us any chance. But then, of course, we played Kilkenny in the final, and they got the start that we wanted to get. They were 9 points to 2 points up after 9 points to 1 up after 10 minutes. But after that, we outscored them. But that didn't matter. They had the damage done at that stage.
Yeah, I mean that. Like you're. It was one of the greatest hurling teams of all time. That Kilkenny team. It
was, and we made them at their very best. I think in 2007.
Yeah. That 07-08 period is definitely when they put in their best performances on a consistent basis in the biggest games. Like, I don't know, in retrospect, is there anything you could have done? I'm sure you've thought about this a lot over the years. Like, if you knew everything that you know now and you could bring yourself back to the weeks in the build-up to the game, is there anything you could have done to stop that Kilkenny team, do you think?
Yeah, well, there is one or two things you could have done afterwards, but your hindsight is a great thing. But no, we prepared perfect for the Kilkenny match, and we had all our homework done. It's only the first 10 minutes that went wrong. After that, everything went according to plan. But then the damage was done. You know, they got 2 quick goals, and the first goal, Eddie Brennan, he rounded Seamus Hickey, who was only 19 years of age at the time, and he was a greenhorn, you know. Whereas if we had put a different cornerback on, which we couldn't have, because Seamus Hickey was man of the match in every match up to then. And if we had put a defensive cornerback on Eddie Brennan, he may not have scored that goal.
Yeah.
What was that winter like, Richie? I'd imagine, like you spoke there about the following season, like in 74, like I'd imagine there was a good celebratory winter. You all wintered well, I'd say, in 1973. But what was the winter in 2007 like? Was it kind of a feeling that Limerick had got as far as they could possibly get to being the best team in the country after Kilkenny, or was there a sense of real disappointment?
There was definitely disappointment, because any team that gets to an All-Ireland final, they expect to win. You know, but the only thing about it is we felt that we for the following year we were starting at a higher level than we were in 2007, so that would make us giving us a better chance. But as it worked out, 2008 didn't work out for us at all.
Was it just injuries in 2008? Was it just that the team had lost its spark and hadn't dealt with defeating the All-Ireland final?
They were on the road since 2002, you know, and and 2008, I think they were just coming near the end of their hunger, for want of a better way of explaining it, you know. In 2007 there was a bit of hunger there, in 2006 and prior to that, but 2008 I suppose things didn't work out anyway.
Yeah, the team was transitioning.
There's been a lot of talk over the last couple of weeks, obviously, about the hype we've been talking about, but obviously Shane Dowling, in the immediate aftermath of the semi-final win over Cork, said that he kind of pleaded for the county to just leave the players alone from a fan's perspective, and John Kiley kind of said the media should leave them alone and that the fans should leave them alone as well. Can you understand why the likes of Kiley and Shane Dowling are saying these sort of things?
I can, but then there's two sides. You see, the hype can help you as well. It can help you to get. I remember in 1973 there was fierce hype, but the nerves were nearly sorted out by the time we got to Croke Park. Because I felt in Croke Park, and a lot of team like me, that we were very relaxed going out. Whereas you have to. The hype is a natural thing when you somebody like in an All-Ireland final. You can't stop people from getting overreacting, you know. But in fairness, now the public have left the players alone, so hopefully it'll work out for the better.
The thing is, the key difference, I think, between 2007 and now is that, like, there's no Kilkenny involved. There is the greatest team of all time, which you were up against in 2007, whereas this time there's a lot of people giving Limerick a chance this weekend. Do you think that they can deal with that pressure and, to a certain extent, the expectancy that creates?
Yes, I think you put it right there. We're going up, like I say, when I've been asked what do I think, we went up against Cork in the semi-final. And I felt we were good enough to win, and if we performed, then we were going to win. And I feel the same against Galway next Sunday. We're good enough to beat Galway if we perform, and I think we will perform, because this team they have something that the team back for the last 10 or 15 years haven't got. They have a big panel. They have 26 players, and any of those 26 players could start the match and couldn't weaken the team. And when they come in, they don't weaken the team.
Would you start Shane Dowling at the weekend?
Personally, I wouldn't. I'd stop the team that starts against Cork, because Shane Dowling was into the wrong way of attacking, but he seems to play well when he come in. So he's a big impact sub. Whereas if we started him, any of the other lads might have the same impact when they come in, if needed to be.
Yeah, if you think back to last year's All-Ireland final, like, there was a period in the game where Waterford needed an impact and they didn't have it, and at that point it kind of became inevitable that Galway were going to win. Even then they didn't manage to burn Waterford off. So, and that's kind of been the pattern where Galway have been brilliant in patches this year. So keeping something in reserve for that period when Galway do get their purple patch, and then suddenly you go to the bench, the crowd goes mad because they see that it's Shane Dowling coming on. Everything stops in the stadium for a minute or two, and Galway have to go and think about that.
Yes, it's a good point, but that'd be my concern. That's my biggest concern. Will Galway perform for the hour, or will they just perform on the same for the same amount of time that is done in both Clare matches? If they play like they played against Clare, I think we will have a great chance, because definitely the impact of our subs will have a big bearing on the result. But that said, Galway have fair subs to come in as well.
They do. They have a brilliant bench.
They have.
One thing about this Limerick team, obviously the comeback that they've shown, and the comeback ability that they've shown right across the group stages and in the Cork game, suggests that the culture is right in the team, and that this isn't just a team that's going to be here for a year. The age profile is sensational. So this should be the start of something really beautiful and brilliant for Limerick hurling.
I don't accept that, because with the round robin, it's a strange situation. We're in a good position now, and you should make hay while the sun shines. Your future is your next match. I don't believe in saying next year we're a young team. Clare are a young team. Tipperary are a fairly young team. Cork are a young team. Galway are a young team. Dublin are a young team. You know, Kilkenny are there the whole time. So if you didn't win the All-Ireland this year, next year doesn't guarantee you that you're going to be in the All-Ireland, because you could be beaten by a pint by Tipperary, you could be beaten by a pint by Cork, you could be beaten by a pint by Clare, or a pint by Waterford. And that wouldn't make you a bad team, but you wouldn't have qualified.
It's a fair point. Richie,
you know?
enjoy the game. Thanks so much for being generous with your time this morning.
No problem.
That's the legend that is Richie Bennis joining us this morning here on OTBAM.
Sounds like next hurling championship is going to be a cracker.
It does, doesn't it?
1 point wins for everyone, all the young teams as well.
It is a game in rude health at the moment.
It is. There's no question about that. It's like, just even going back to the Davy thing from earlier on, like the kind of upswing of that, and you think about the two teams that were left out of the progression from Munster this year, and you're like, oh God, both of them got to All-Ireland finals in the last 2 years. One of them is an All-Ireland champion 2 years ago. So, like, he's right when he kind of preaches caution. Even if Limerick are All-Ireland champions, actually probably because Limerick are All-Ireland champions, they will have a hell of a battle on their hands next year in the round robin. So that's why this is so important. It's like you never know when this opportunity is going to come again, particularly for this group of players and this guy's under John Kiley at this age profile. This is one hell of an opportunity for Limerick to bring Liam back to the Shannon.
Is there any fear that Galway could become a team that dominates everything if they win this and then they're catapulted into greatness, so they stop having that kind of easy-osy attitude that they might have had a little bit across the championship this year?
Are we saying that it was an easy-osy attitude?
I don't know, I'm just wondering.
Joe Canning says people were saying that. Was it you? Were you the person in the media that was questioning their character?
He didn't say the media.
Oh yeah, he said people question their character.
Yeah, so I think that there's somebody whose job it is to get into the team on Monday in the WhatsApp group, on Tuesday training, on Wednesday in the one-on-one sessions going, you know.
Yeah, I don't think they do have that attitude. I think attitude-wise they're fairly well tuned. I think it's very hard to dominate at the moment.
Exactly, but it's not that it's an attitude issue. It's that we are better than everybody else, and they are better than everybody else. But that doesn't automatically translate to we're going to be able to dominate games the way that the magnitude of how much better they are than everybody doesn't give them an automatic 5-point lead at every point in the game.
Look at Tip last year.
Yeah, and Tip every year.
Purely best team in the country. Well, that's the thing. Like we thought that they were going to go on and dominate. I don't think it's possible for a team to dominate the way the hurling championship is A, set up, but B, the quality of the top 7 teams. It's just...
There'll be a lot of confidence coursing through this Galway team if they go back to back.
There will.
There'll be a sense that they are invincible, and that might be the thing that gets them to, and might make the other teams. Kilkenny's greatness wasn't just in the individual talent that they had. It was also in that so many teams quailed as soon as that team got a lead on them. Even Richie talking about the 2 early goals. It's like, it's hurling. You can come back from this, but when it's Kilkenny, you can't come back from it because that team had the aura. If Galway were to suddenly have an aura,
I'm not sure. I don't know. I think there's been enough evidence already this year to suggest that Galway aura doesn't exactly rubber stamp a victory.
If they get through this, it's like, oh Jesus, that's Galway.
Well, they did it despite giving up 3 big leads throughout the year and pulling through them. It shows great character for sure, but I don't think it shows that teams are afraid to give it a bit of welly when they need to. I don't buy that at all. I think Galway have a very good chance of going into next year looking for a 3 in a row. Of course they do, and they might well do it. It doesn't mean that they are going to kind of hold the sort of authority over the rest of the country, kind of strangle the rest of the country the way Kilkenny used to do, because that's exactly what it was, as you said. It was that aura, it was the psychological advantage they had over everybody just by being so dominant, by believing they were so dominant, and by everybody else believing they were so far inferior. I don't think there's too much of an inferiority complex about the rest of the teams in the top tier of hurling. Like, tell that to somebody from Cork or Tipperary going up against Galway next year. It's like, you're not good enough to beat this team. Tell Waterford. They would have loved to have got another crack at Galway this year after what happened in the All-Ireland final last year, after underperforming in... Well, okay, but that's kind of a separate point. I mean, the general psychological thing that you were talking about, psychologically Waterford would have loved to get another crack at them. And Cork and Tipperary don't do inferiority complexes, except maybe against the great Kilkenny team, but that's an anomaly.
I think it's important that Limerick win this just for the hurling championship to be...
The hurling championship is fine, Jar. Don't worry about the hurling championship.
For this era to be the great era that it needs more than one team.
What is the great era? Are you saying the 90s is the great era because it had so many different teams winning Liam?
Yeah.
But why wasn't the great era not the peak Cody era?
Well, that was the greatest.
How do we know
team.
that wasn't the best
But that
era
was
of
the
hurling?
greatest team of all time.
But the gap body just been huge. That period was huge.
That period where the gap wasn't huge. Like Tipperary were really good, and ran them really close. And so those 3 All-Irelands where it goes Kilkenny, Tip, Kilkenny, that's as good as the game has ever been. But like, just for a proper, you need teams to win the All-Ireland. It can't just go Galway, Tip, Kilkenny, which is what could easily happen over the next couple of years. And then it's like, oh, Galway came along, won a couple of All-Irelands. the games look pretty good and pretty close there. Where were all the other teams? You need them to win All Irelands for it to be considered an amazing era.
Well, it's good variety. I'm not sure about that. I think I'm not sure about I think
This is your privilege coming out here.
What do you mean it's my privilege coming out?
Well, you win an All Ireland every 3 years. You think, well, that's all right. It doesn't really matter.
We won the last All Ireland 4 years ago.
Yeah, but on average,
3 years.
in history, you win on average. You
Is
win
that actually a fact?
Yeah.
It might be dwindling now, but I don't buy that. I think the Kilkenny peak era was a pretty great era for hurling, and we just didn't appreciate it. And we clearly what you're saying, we still don't appreciate it.
Let's move on. Shane Lowry spoke about his recent split with his long-term caddy Dermot Byrne on last night's show.
It was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do, so that's kind of all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to dive into it too much because I'm conscious of him and whatever, but it was one of the most difficult things that's ever had to happen. And it's funny, he's working for Julian Surrey for a couple of weeks, and we're very nearly paired with him on Sunday, so that would have been interesting. But look, it is what it is. We we spoke a little bit last week, and we flew down. We were on a charter flight down here to Wyndham, and we sat beside each other on the plane and stuff. So we're still good friends, and he's been very good to me, and I've been good to him. So that's kind of the way we've left it.
That's brilliant, because lots of caddy players, when that moment comes, they can't look at each other for a while. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's why we wanted to leave it. We wanted to leave it. We spoke about it at the Open, and we wanted to leave it where we'd still remain friends, because we've had, like we said, 9 successful years together.
Yeah, and a big week for Shane Lowry, so hopefully he can feature this week as well as he did last week and see it home and just make sure that his tour card is secure for next year, and then concentrate on the rest of the season and where that might take him. Yesterday we were asking, is it possible that Jack McCaffrey, if he continues on this trajectory, could actually go on to become the greatest of all time? For pure talent, says Mixer, it's hard to pick one. Also, eras were different with training and fitness, but my top 10, which we didn't ask for, in the last 30 years, in no order: Tomás O'Shea, Diarmuid Connolly, Peter Canavan, Ciarán MacDonald, Pádraig Joyce, Maurice Fitz, Colin Cooper, Oisin McConville, Seamus Moynihan and Sean Kavanagh.
Hard to argue with any of that. Last 30 years, though, I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think early 90s.
No Cluxton. No Brogan.
Yeah, Bernard Brogan is a big omission. Last 30 years, and there's no current Dublin player. Oh, sorry, Diarmuid Connolly in terms of current era. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think you've got to spread it out. There was, again, maybe we didn't appreciate the era of the Ciarán MacDonald, Pádraig Joyce enough.
Michael Donlan.
Michael Donlan's not up there. Don't know why.
Kevin Garrity says, if Connolly's in there, Keegan has to be in there. Lee Keegan is a sensational footballer, as good as.
Well, he's trying to suggest that Keegan just follows Connolly everywhere.
Oh, okay, guy.
I think that's probably what he's trying to say. But Lee Keegan's not a bad job. Maybe this decade. To be fair, he's not even the best player in the current team. Brian Fenton is far and away the best player in the country in the future. I agree with what Paul is saying.
Let's read it out for the listeners. To be fair, he's not even the best player in the current team, says Jack McCaffrey. Brian Fenton is far and away the best player in the country and future GOAT.
I just read it out.
Well, you've mumbled it.
Oh, wow, okay, thanks. I agree with a certain element of what he's saying. I think Brian Fenton is going to be Footballer of the Year. I think...
This year?
Yes. Yes, he is. Isn't he?
I don't know.
I thought that was... I didn't even know this was going to be kind of up for question.
Well, I mean, it is. He's been really good. Just hasn't dominated games. It's weird. It's hard to dominate games from midfield now. And actually, when you need someone to catch a ball in the second half, and when you need someone to just kick a point, it's Fenton who catches it and it's Fenton who kicks it. But
arguably, his biggest challenge is Brian Howard for Player of the Year. If Jack McCaffrey puts in another man of the match performance,
Kilkenny 6-4, Fenton is 7-2. I don't think they'll give it to Jack McCaffrey because he wasn't getting
there long enough.
In fairness, he wasn't getting picked, right? And then he would start the games.
Yeah,
8-1 himself and Colin Kavanagh.
8-1 for Jack McCaffrey. You're banking on him kind of putting in another man of the match contender performance in the All-Ireland final, which is
James McCarthy's 10s.
Big possibility. James McCarthy probably would have picked it at the start of the year. Probably hasn't done enough to be in Player of the Year conversation. He probably will get an All-Star. I think Brian Fenton is getting it. So I think, he is currently the player of the last 2 years for Dublin. I just think if you go back to maybe 2015 beyond, take out Jack McCaffrey's gap year. I'm trying to think what year that was.
You can't take it out.
You can't. That was 2016. So, I do think there is just an unbelievable consistency to him that has been there from the very start of this great Dublin team.
So that's Canavan, Jack McCaffrey, and Jack O'Shea. That's not a bad trio. Paul O'Connor, was on that one, sorry. Jerry Campbell says Matt Connor, Port Joyce, Mikey Sheehy, Kieran MacDonald, take your pick. He says Mickey Sheehy, so he gets deducted.
I like the Mikey Sheehy shout.
Luke McElligott. Bernard Brogan was a lone forward for a couple of years and he's still there. They've so many great players. Yeah, it's funny how, like, Brogan was player of the year in a team that didn't win All Ireland. Like,
yeah,
that doesn't get enough credit. Now, I think it doesn't get enough credit because some of the Mayo lads have done it and the Dublin fans hate the fact that the Mayo lads have done it. They're like, well, you can't do that. Like, well, you did it. Oh yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah,
and then Brian Murphy says Jaff Fallon was every bit as good as Maurice Fitz, and you can't compare today's footballer to that of Jack O'Shea's era, so the whole conversation is redundant.
Yeah, let's just shut this down.
Screw you,
now.
Brian. Screw you.
Shut this down. I just wasted my breath there for 7 or 8 minutes.
We're going to be previewing the All Ireland football and hurling finals in the company of Daithí Regan, Ollie Moran, Pete Finnerty, Enda McGinley, and Barney Rock tonight. That's going to be our roadshow live at the Guinness Open Gate Brewery. The football show will have Dan and Johnny Ward united and in control of the airwaves on their own, unaccompanied. Who thought that was a good idea? Tommy Walsh and Máire Treasa and Nick Kelly are going to be in studio as Owen's replacement tomorrow morning from 7:45. Where are you going on?
I'm going to see the All or Nothing premiere in Manchester, the new Amazon documentary on Manchester City's title-winning season last year.
Very good.
Can't wait to see the...
Up there?
I'll see. I'm not sure. Hopefully. Special guests is what I'm told.
Oh, yeah.
Plural. So it's not a Champions League week, sure.
Who could be a disappointing special guest? Who's the sub-keeper at the moment? Danny Mills.
No, Danny Mills would be great. David Platt.
David Platt. David Platt? What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying it would be great.
David Platt's a hero of my youth.
Well, you know, we all have our own heroes, and hopefully we'll be able to get something with your hero.
All right, on that note, we'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.
OTBAM.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.